Hello, gods and goddesses, and welcome to another episode of the Goddess Chronicles. I am your host, Elevar.Maximus, and today's episode is called And Now We're Gonna Freeze. Make sure you like, follow, subscribe, comment, plus share. Let's get in the episode. So, recently I had what they call an acute stress response. And what is that? It falls into the category of fight, flight, freeze, or fawn. I'm not going to get into the other three, but we are going to talk about freeze response. Definition of a freeze response by aplaceofhope.com. A freeze response is more common for those that experienced a large amount of fear in response to certain stressors. As children, the ability to protect or defend oneself is limited and mostly reliant upon the caregiver. Therefore, if one felt routinely unsafe or unprotected by their parent or guardian, they could have a tendency towards this response as adults. When a child isn't able to fight or run from perceived danger, it incites a panic response, making one numb or immobile in the face of the stressor. Trauma as a child could be one of the most common causes of panic and fear. When a child is subjected to emotional or physical abuse by someone or something it cannot defend itself from, they are left feeling helpless, unable to tap into the biological systems designed to assist them in either fighting or fleeing. Anxiety and panic are indicated as two factors that contribute to the tonic immobility or a natural state of paralysis, something that is otherwise counterintuitive for a human in the presence of danger. In other words, a child that has suffered from constant anxiety or trauma may develop a tendency to freeze as a response to the trigger or triggers. How can I tell if I'm in a freeze response? If you often feel disconnected or numb when faced with stressful situations, it may be a sign that you're going into a freeze response. Some other signs of the freeze response include feeling like you cannot move your limbs, feeling paralyzed in fear, having a panic attack, disassociating, holding your breath, a deep sense of dread. The freeze response may have served our predecessors well. For example, they may have played dead when faced with a predator or used the freeze response to stall for time. You can think of the freeze response as something akin to stalling, a temporary pause that gives your mind and body a chance to plan and prepare for your next steps. So why did this happen to me? This happened to me because I was presented with a situation, the same situation that I was presented in childhood. And in that childhood moment, it's a very traumatic memory for me. And I froze in that moment. And I had the same response recently when this happened again. But I overcame it. I haven't froze like that since that moment in time many, many years ago. And I planned for this in case it ever did come up again. And good thing I had been training myself in healing. So when the moment did arise and the situation came, I was surprised because I've never felt that feeling of not being able to breathe, not being able to move. I felt like I wasn't even moving my eyes. My brain went blank. Anxiety took over. Like I said, I felt like I couldn't breathe. It was very intimidating. But I remembered I'm not this child. I am an adult and I have control of the moment and I've taken my power back and I can move through this. So even though I had I felt like it went on for at least a minute, but it was probably only seconds. And I was actually able to continue to operate and say what I needed to say and move through the moment. And the freeze response disappeared. Let's conclude on how we can gain control over this issue. This comes from ashleytreatment.org. Can we control our stress response? Many of the things that happen are an instinctive or biological response. For example, an increase of an adrenaline when one is preparing to engage in the fight response. However, the best way to deal with an unwanted response in these situations is to engage in therapy, which can help to call attention to the process, the negative experiences that cause them. Once there is an awareness of what is triggering the event, it may cause these reactions. Grounding techniques are often the most helpful in the moment. Deep breathing, stimulating the nervous system, practicing awareness of your physical surroundings, verbal self-affirmations such as you are safe, you are calm, you are loved. Ultimately, the best way to avoid a negative response is to heal the underlying trauma that necessitated it. This will help remove or lessen the trigger, helping to respond in a more stable and self way to perceive the threat. I hope this helped you today, gods and goddesses. Know that I love you.